This video is going to go over the absolute basic rules for playing Artifact. Since I can't share anything from the closed beta, I'll be using game footage from the PAX West event to showcase the rules. By the end of this video, you will hopefully have a basic understanding of the game. I plan on covering this in much greater capacity once the NDA is lifted, as I will be able to discuss things with a lot more clarity. Artifact is a game that is played on 3 separate lanes. Each lane has a tower that begins the game with 40 health. If a tower is destroyed, it respawns as an agent that has 80 health. To win a game of Artifact, a player must destroy either 2 towers in separate lanes or a single agent. Each player has a deck that contains 5 heroes. Decks are a minimum of 40 cards, and each hero adds 3 specific signature cards to the deck. This means that 15 cards of the deck will be tied to your hero choices. Each hero also has a color. Currently, the colors in the game are green, blue, red, and black. Cards can only be played when a hero of the corresponding color is present. With the exception of the first round, each round of the game is divided into 3 phases. There is a deployment phase, an action phase, and a shopping phase. In the first round of the game, 3 heroes are deployed randomly, with 1 going into each lane. Each player also has 2 melee creeps that spawn randomly. Melee creeps are minions with 2 attack and 4 health. In all other deployment phases, players get to choose the lanes where their heroes are deployed. However, melee creeps still spawn randomly unless there are effects that would change their placement. Unit positions are given a path for attacking during the deployment phase. Each position has a 50% chance to attack the unit directly ahead of them, and a 25% chance to attack the unit to the left or to the right of them. If there are no units to the left or to the right, the path will always attack what is directly in front of it. You can see what paths are assigned by watching the arrow cards that are dealt during deployment, and also by looking at the pointer on each card during the action phase. Keep in mind that these directions are assigned to the position and not to the unit. So if a unit changes its position, it may end up attacking in a different direction. After the deployment phase, the action phase begins. This phase always begins with the leftmost lane. Players take turns playing cards or passing. Playing cards with a mana cost will use the mana associated with this tower. Each tower begins the game with 3 mana, and it increases by 1 each round. Some cards, like items, don't have a mana cost. Cards with a color can only be played if a hero of the corresponding color is present. For example, you cannot play a black card if there's only a green hero present. Most cards are played into the active lane, but some cards can be played into other lanes. These cards have a left and right symbol next to their costs to indicate this. There are 4 different kinds of cards that can be played during the action phase. There are items, spells, creeps, and improvements. Items are bought in the shop, which we will cover in a little bit. Creeps are minions that will have a presence on the board. Spells perform some kind of action. This can be dealing damage, buffing cards, or even spawning more creeps. Improvements are played in a lane, but are not on the board itself. These can provide passive bonuses, or they can allow for certain effects to be used. These are similar to artifacts in Magic the Gathering or support cards in the Elder Scrolls Legends if you've played those games. During their turn, players have the options to play a card, activate an ability on a card, or pass their turn. Combat is resolved for the lane when pass actions are taken by both players back to back. The first player to pass will have initiative in the next lane. Having initiative means that that player will get to take the first action in that lane. You can tell who will have initiative by looking at the minimap in the top left corner. You can also tell by the coin that you click when you pass. If the coin has the artifact logo, you will have initiative in the next lane. If it has 2 swords, passing will begin combat in this lane and you will be acting second in the next one. The minimap is also worth noting because it gives you additional information about the game. You can see what heroes are on the board and in what lanes. You can also see at a glance if a hero is in danger of dying. When combat resolves, units attack according to their paths and damage is calculated. Unblocked units will attack the opposing tower. Blocked units will deal damage to their targets. You can predict how much damage will be dealt before combat is resolved by looking at the red numbers next to units and towers. When combat resolves and units die, each player is awarded gold that they can spend in the shop during the shopping phase. Each enemy creep killed is worth 1 gold, and each hero is worth 5 gold. There are cards that can change these values. Finally, after combat is resolved, the players shift to the next lane. Lanes are resolved from left to right. After the third lane is resolved, players enter the shopping phase. During the shopping phase, players are shown items in 3 different positions. Players may purchase these items if they have enough gold. The first slot is always the secret shop, and this presents a random item to the player. This item can be any item in the game. The second slot is from the player's item deck. Item decks must contain at least 9 cards, and they are determined by the player when they build their deck. The item shown each shopping phase is a random item from the item deck. Buying this item will show another item from the item deck, and you can see how many are left by looking at the information below that slot. The third slot is the consumables slot. This contains a random consumable item. This is a small set list of items, but the available option is randomized every shopping phase. Once players have bought items, the game moves to the deployment phase again. Here, players can deploy heroes into a lane of their choosing. During the first 2 rounds, players will be shown heroes that they have not yet deployed, since their team has a total of 5 heroes. Their 4th hero is available in round 2, and their 5th hero is available in round 3. If a hero dies, that hero can be redeployed after sitting out 1 full round. There are some effects that can speed up or change hero deployment. This pretty much covers the absolute basics for playing Artifact. One final thing to note is that the game ends the moment any player has satisfied the conditions for victory. This means that if a player is set to destroy the towers in lanes 2 and 3, but the other player destroys the Ancient in the first lane, the player destroying the Ancient would win immediately. A round does not have to play out fully to determine a winner. Now that you have the knowledge of the basics of gameplay, there are plenty of videos around that you can watch to get a greater understanding of the game. If you are interested in the game, I highly recommend checking out the games that were live streamed from PAX West. Once the NDA has been lifted, I plan on posting plenty of content as well. Thanks for watching, and I hope this little primer on the rules has helped you out.